True story, you know the haps. Let me break it down for the new boys, no cap. They respect the trap, nah fam, I'm free. And freedom ain't free until we all living free. Mindset fix, another day, another obstacle. Family feed lies, your dreams is what they robbing you. You gotta make it possible, gotta make it possible, gotta make it possible. Make the future possible.
Greetings, my good people. It is me, Rolo C, and welcome back to Rolo Runs the City podcast. I am your host, Rolo, and I just want to say hello to my great people out there who listen. Everything is going fine and well today. No problems here, thank goodness. That's always definitely always a good thing. I like boring, you know me. I don't need the massive excitement of drama in my life. I don't do that. But anywho, everything is going well. And today, our show is going to be about why do we feed our distractions and neglect focus. I thought this would be a great topic to actually harp on due to the fact that many of us are so distracted in this busy world, and we feed those distractions as opposed to owning in on our craft and really focusing on what matters in life. For me, I'm very big on family. I'm very big on my own mental health and awareness, as well as my physical health, being very close to my creator. So I'm very spiritual in that aspect, as well as ensuring that, you keep yourself in the good graces and good standings financially. And, there's other things that drive and motivate, of course, not only me, but all individuals. But it's all about actually, owning in on that focus. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up as well is because every time I go somewhere in public, which is kind of weird now, of course, because everybody's got a mask on, but, business as usual, I guess, just we're all around looking like ninjas. But I'll tell you like this, every time I see folks, their head is always down. So, I'll take it back to the 80s and even the 90s for that matter. Whenever you see somebody that had their head down, they just had a long day. They kind of drooped down a little bit, just like, man, I'm glad it's over, or, things are kind of hard. But nowadays, whenever you see somebody with their head drooped down, it's because they're on their smartphone. And it's absolutely, it's unfortunate that we're not able to actually live within our own mind and live within silence and be patient and wait. We always have to be consumed by some sort of information. So then that way we can pass the time and not really worry about, I guess, dead silence. I guess people are really afraid of their own thoughts. So in order to not have them, I guess what they do is they distract themselves by looking at other things, whether it be, social media, maybe they're watching videos, maybe probably reading an article. But we really have gotten away from making sure that we're mentally sound and that we're not being influenced by, especially nowadays, that people are easily influenced by non-credible sources. When before, you had the news. If news were to break, it was because it was certified, solidified that this actually did happen and it's backed up by evidence, and now we've put it out. So we're in a situation where people are no longer reporting. Everybody's basically doing opinion-based shows, and they're hoping that you adopt the same ideals. So then that way they can keep on furthering their agenda. And I always say things like this are unfortunate because we need to be free-willed thinkers. We need to be making decisions on our own. So just because I think a certain way and I'm doing the best that I can to deliver information through an unbiased perspective, But just because I feel a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that you have to feel that way. But unfortunately, many people are so easily influenced. It's just amazing. Especially, we just had this past month our election, and along with that was massive amounts of text messages from people that you don't know, but evidently they've Googled your number and they know your first name, and they're like, hey, so are you going to vote for Biden this year? Hey, are you a Trump supporter this year? And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, and I'm being kind of nice when I'm saying that. I mean, these folks were absolutely aggressive. They said, do you want the economy to change? Vote for Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, are you tired of the liberal rhetoric? Well, ensure that you vote Trump 2020. Like, it was nuts. You know what I'm saying? And that's just where we have come as a society, to where we're no longer reporting facts anymore. Now everything's based off of opinions and biases. And it is nuts. But I really wanted to talk about this today because obviously this ties into the distraction. So, when it comes down to it, hard work, right, it's what it is. It's hard work, and many are not willing to do hard work. And unfortunately, that's what focus is going to require. It's going to require some hard work, no matter what you're doing. Like the old saying says, where I believe it's where focus goes, energy flows, if I'm not mistaken. And you have a lot of people that aren't willing to put in that focus and that energy together, so they would rather be distracted because by default it's just easier to do. And unfortunately, we live in a society now where people prefer the default. They prefer not to put in the work. I'd hate to call them out and say lazy, but hey, it is what it is. All right. Some tasks may seem menial, doing the dishes. Hell, even putting them in the dishwasher, right? Letting the machine do the work. Taking out the trash, exercising, etc. It all seems menial, right? But these examples, they serve great purpose, but we would rather put them off until we can no longer deal with what the buildup is actually coming. Okay? Then we get upset with the issues that we develop because of our own laziness. For example, don't do the dishes, right? Dishes are piling up. Next thing you know, your house smells like junk. It smells like something out of this world, okay? Or even for that matter, you're like, man, I'm getting ready to eat. Where the hell are the damn dishes at? And instead of putting them back in the cupboard where they belong, you leave them in the dishwasher and you pull as you go. But now you're complaining because the dishes need to be done, and the dishwasher is half full with clean dishes, and you got to put dirty dishes inside. So now you guys are griping about who's going to unload the dishwasher, who's going to load it back up, and etc. I mean, it just becomes an issue, right? Now, I'm just bringing up these menial tasks, but it just goes to show you how society is today. Just with the smallest things, we just want to gripe and complain about. And it's unbelievable, okay? Not to mention that now you're like, well, you know what? I don't want to deal with the situation with the dishes, so we're just going to start buying paper utensils and paper plates and paper and plastic cups. That's what we're going to do. But now you don't like to take out the trash. So now your house is still smelling like garbage. Okay? Trash is piling up. All you got to do is take it outside and put it inside your, I believe it's a 96-gallon drum that they give you. All you got to do is just take it out there, put it inside there, and, when the trash man comes, of course, take it out to the curb and do what you got to do. But we're so lazy to do that. But then we get upset when the house smells like crap. Okay? It's amazing. So there's no other finger that you should be pointing at, to anyone but yourself. It's due to your own laziness. okay? And people get upset with situations, but they don't realize that they cause them. It's like I always tell people all the time. People always want to get credit for putting out fires. It's like I can't give you credit for putting out a fire when you're the one that started it. So it could have been avoided. But we much rather Netflix and chill, see what's on the gram, Twitter, Facebook, things that serve absolutely no purpose and has a negative effect on our psyche. Okay, this is what we would rather focus on. Okay, this is where you're feeding the distraction. Jealousy, looking at other people's posts, supposedly living the good life. Truth be told, most of those folks that are winning on Instagram and on Facebook and all that, and you're seeing all the family vacations, are actually losing in life, creating this facade, desperately attempting to fool the masses. This happens all the time, okay? We live in a very superficial, fake society right now. And where has the realness gone? When will it come back? It's almost like Jesus. Everybody's waiting for Jesus to come back, but when's he going to come back? So it's the same thing with people being real with one another. I'll never forget, I was watching something the other day and it came up on my feed on YouTube, and it shows plastic surgery and Jennifer Lopez. So, of course, I'm like, Jennifer Lopez is like 52 years old now. I'm like, she looks like a teenager. I know she's probably had some work done, right? So I'm like, I can understand, you attribute yourself to a good diet, you always making sure you're not putting garbage in your system, but, naturally we age, and I love the aging process, especially when you're doing it the right way, okay? And why I say the right way is you're exercising, you're eating right, you're not doing damage to yourself, and that's when I say, you've aged gracefully, age has been good to you, but it's because you've been good to yourself, so of course that's going to naturally happen. But you look at they were showing a picture of her in 1997. They were showing a picture of her in 2007. Then they were showing a picture of her in 2018, right? So it's funny because they're showing all the work that she got done, talking about, cheekbone fillers and how she thinned out her nose because she got a nose job. And she does Botox to kind of tighten the skin, but not too excessive to where she can't actually have facial expressions like most who are addicted to plastic surgery. And, it's like, yeah, well, of course she's had work done. I mean, if you look at her nose, as we, get older and as we try to get in shape, we know that we can lose weight and we can tone our muscles up. Maybe we lose a little muscle or maybe we lose a little fat. But of course, those are entities that will recede in time depending on what your focus is physically. But we know that bones don't thin out. Okay, like it's evident that she got a nose job done. She just did it at a gradual sense to where it became unnoticeable. It became a part of her look. It wasn't something that was too drastic. Like you didn't see a girl that had A cup sized breasts, and next thing you know, you see her in 2 weeks and she has D cups, and it's like, well, we know that's not natural, And I'm not just basically trying to call out women. I'm just saying the process in general. So she did her work gradually. Anyway, basically, what I'm trying to say is, it's amazing how I just got on this whole Jennifer Lopez thing. But what I'm trying to say is, okay, is that people all the time, they try to project something that they're really not, okay? And it's a horrible situation. We all go through struggles, whether it be financially, whether it be physically. A lot of deal with depression. And it's unfortunate that we don't see our own deficiencies and try to address them until somebody else outside of us mentions it. And then we're like, oh, I don't think I've been... No, you've been kind of messed up lately. You seem a little depressed. What's the problem? Okay? Something's got you out of whack. What's the issue? And a lot of times it's because we're not taking care of our own mental health. We're too busy trying to supposedly see the quote-unquote winners on social media, and it's taking away from us as a whole. So the whole point is we need to make sure that we're not being lazy in our own lives and we're being very proactive. This way, we can make sure that we're being the most productive that we can possibly be. Don't buy into what everybody else is doing. The people that you think that are winning, they're really not winning like the way you think they are. And you really have to do what you need to do and stop feeding your distractions, which is actually feeding those folks' egos. Which obviously was one of the reasons why I talked about this in past episodes about how I got off of social media. And the reason why I got off of social media is because I had total control of what I could see. And then I've noticed down the line that I was losing control of what I see. And I'm like, wow, I definitely don't want to see all these ads. I'm not trying to see all these people shaking their butts like there's no tomorrow. Like, I'm not trying to see twerking all day. Like I said, I'm into personal development. I'm into exercising. I'm into food, of course, eating healthy. And next thing you know, I'm seeing half naked girls, just straight up shaking it. And I'm like, why is this coming up in my feed? You know what I mean? So it was crazy. And it wasn't even people that I followed. But like I said in past episodes, it turns out people that you follow, if they're liking this content, it's going to show up on your discovery feed. And then next thing you know, you're just going to see scattered booty everywhere and people shaking it up. And, it is what it is from that standpoint. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm not going to feed into this crap. And the reason why I'm not going to do it is because to me, not only is it not tasteful at all, but I have an example that I need to set for my kids. And I'm not trying to be on my Instagram and my daughter's like, what are you looking at? Mind you, my daughter, she's going to be 15 and she sees me looking at some girl just shaking it like a salt shaker. Obviously, my older folks know what I'm talking about. Shout out to the Yin Yang twins. But anyway, so that's where I was like, I cannot feed this distraction. And I noticed that Instagram as a whole was starting to become distracting anyway because they try to bombard you with so much information. It's like, oh man, what about this? And what about that? What about this? What about that? And next thing you know, you're checking out so much content that you're not even putting anything that you want to learn into play. So that obviously became a problem. All right. So let's just be very transparent with that. All right, moving along. When we feed, and this is one thing that we need to understand. When we feed our focus, as opposed to falling down in those rabbit holes, we concentrate on our health and wellness, practice our spirituality, learning to increase our income and become more financially savvy, and truly focusing on becoming mentally sound and do activity to increase our mental health. It just makes us an overall better individual because maybe these are things that someone who wants to become better wants to target in their life, and unfortunately they're not able to because they're too busy feeding the distraction as opposed to feeding their focus. Okay, like for example, meditation is a great tool to really feed that focus. Silence the mind, silence the body, really absorb what life has to give you. This is something that I practice on a daily basis, which keeps me very well level and brings a lot of clarity. Things that are happening present day, what I'm looking for in the future, how my past has brought me to where I am right now, whether it be negatively impacted or positively impacted. You get to really self-reflect. Meditation is a great tool. All right, when we feed our focus, this equates to productivity. There's a huge difference between productivity and there's a huge difference between that and being busy. Okay, people who feed their distractions are busy, which ultimately leads to doing things that really don't matter in life or anyone else's, and you become a victim of 3 or 4 hours passing and you were just scrolling down your discovery feed on IG. Very, like I said, very counterproductive, and exercise and futility, might I add. Not the way to go. Now, for those who are productive, they get closer to their goals, okay? Due to their great sense of time management, keeping their eyes on the prize, and willfully working, understanding how their work ethic can drastically change the trajectory of not only their life, but those who are in it. So we have to realize and understand that we can definitely become better if we just simply feed our focus. Now, I totally get it. People need a mental break. I get it. They want to go ahead and get away. This was a funny notion. Of course, you know me, I like to include sports into my podcast. But I remember when Cliff Kingsbury, right, which happened to be the backup of Tom Brady back in 05, I think it was, back in New England, right? Young guy. I think he's like 39, 40 years old. He's a young cat. And when he took over as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, people blasted him, right? Because he stated that he was going to give his guys, he's like, yeah, by every 20, 30 minutes, I go ahead and I give them a little social media break, so then that way they can go ahead and get on their social media. But hey, after those 10 minutes, we got to come back and put it in some work for another 45 minutes to an hour. But I allot them that nice little 10-minute break, so then that way they can get their social media fix. And it's funny that they said fix, right? Because I'll never forget a documentary I had looked at on Netflix, talking about the dangers of social media. And it's funny that Cliff Kingsbury used the word fixed, because the only said the only people that refer to the clients as users are drug dealers and social media. They're the only ones that refer to those folks as users. Anybody who's running social media and anybody who's dealing drugs, which is crazy. So when he used this term of, so they can get their social media fix, it's no different than junkies trying to inject themselves with needles containing illegal substances. Okay? But, of course, we don't want to hold it there, because we already know the biggest drug pushers are pharmaceutical companies. That get you hooked on some stuff, and they sell you on some stuff that you think is working, which is actually damaging your body, creating the negative placebo effect to a point where you think something is absolutely working, and it's really becoming a detriment to your health as opposed to enhancing it. Which is why I use a holistic approach, and I've been like that forever in a year. But anywho, I didn't mean to get off subject, but the whole point was that he knew how to get through to his core base. Now, if we understand this, nowadays, guys that are playing football are millennials. So he's kind of done the research to understand how to actually gravitate, embrace, and cater to his millennials that play for him. So I think it's that was an example that I wanted to use, because for the most part, we have to learn how to feed our focus. So if we're in a society today where we don't have people who will commit long term because their boredom sets in, we live in this ADHD society, which is nuts, right? But truth be told, it is what it is. Okay, so how do we keep the attention of people? Well, we have to figure this out, so then that way we can try to take care of the task at hand. So I give Cliff Kingsbury an A+, because obviously, not sure if you're following football at all this year, but the Arizona Cardinals are pretty damn good. And, it was going to take a couple years to go ahead and straighten out that organization. But evidently, he's doing something that most other teams should be doing. So, but my whole point is you don't want to be subjected to burnout, and I totally get that. Boredom sets in. Next thing you know, you keep on feeding the distractions to a point where you can't control it anymore. So, as opposed to feeding the distraction, feed your focus. Use your somewhat of your distraction as a reward. So, if you're the type of person who is trying to get something done in the creative space and you're like, man, well, I'm tired of doing this already, but I've done it for the past hour and I feel like I just need a break. Well, you know what? You did well. Why don't you give yourself a break for like 20 minutes, play yourself 4 quarters of NBA 2K, right? Because you like playing video games, you love basketball, and you love being a creator, but at the same token, the creation process, of course, is work. So you're getting burnt out from that. Reward with yourself, play you a game, 20, 25 minutes. Get back to work for the next couple of hours. Just try to do what you can to have a reward system. So then that way you can continue furthering your personal agenda that will change the trajectory of not only your life, but those who follow you and those who you personally affect. Because at the end of the day, when we're able to get in this space where we're serving other people, we create a better world because everybody starts adapting that mindset of trying to help one another as opposed to trying to step on one another to get ahead, which is, of course, counterproductive as well. May not be counterproductive for the person who's trying to step on others just to get ahead, but you're not really serving anybody. So at the end of the day, are you really doing God's work? Well, anyway, I know that I have totally went off the rails on this episode, but that is okay because at the end of the day, I want to do the best that I can to put out the best information possible I can for my listeners, and I'm just trying to use my voice to get out to the people, and I do believe that God uses me as a vessel to ensure that I get his message out, and that's totally how I feel about that situation. So take it how you will. Anywho, this is Rolo C from Rolo Runs the City. If you guys have any questions, have any comments, or just want to shout out, definitely hit me up at RoloRunsTheCity@gmail.com. That is at RoloRunsTheCity@gmail.com. You guys take care, Godspeed, and have a wonderful week.